It's time for the big three. 3 stocks, 3 charts, 3 trades. Ben Lichtenstein will take us through the charts. Here to take us through the trades, Charles Moon, Senior Market Strategist, Equities at Prosper Trading Academy. Great to see you both. Happy Friday to you. First up, Coinbase. You're looking at this name well off the 283 highs, but it's had a good week. It's up 3% for the week, but 3% today. Most of that gain is today. Some of your thoughts, Charles, on this name?
Yeah, Coin hasn't really participated with the broad market rally. We've seen a lot of snapbacks in some of these bigger tech names, Meta in particular, racing back to almost touching their all-time highs. With Coin, I feel like this is a little bit stagnant because of Bitcoin itself having some struggles and really big washouts to the downside. But what really has been showcased here is that it's holding a key technical threshold, which is the 200-day moving average. And with stocks finding acceptance above this level, all we're looking for is a little bit of propellant in both the markets to continue their rally and Bitcoin to start rebounding back. And this is where I find great opportunities on a buy low play in an extremely volatile name like Coinbase. If they could sustain above 190, I love the upshoot to around 215, and I believe that they could get up to 225 very, very quickly if Bitcoin and markets continue to sympathetically rebound here. So this is going to be a watcher for that acceptance at around that 191 level and that continuing rise here of the markets, rebounding back after that unwinding from the carry trade.
Yeah, can it get up to some of those levels and hold the bottom too? Ben?
Hey, Nicole, Charles, good afternoon. Massive move lower from 270 down to 160, but I don't think that invalidated the longer-term trend to the upside. The intraday charts are a mess right now, and most of the products we're going to talk about and across the board are, right, with the spike lower last week and then the big move up we've seen in reaction to. But I wanted to avoid the intraday look at price activity here and just start off with the daily, and then we'll take note of that 200-day moving average Charles referenced. But daily candle chart, bottom left, top right, easily identifiable trend up. Now, we lost some of that conviction after topping out at 283 back in March, if you remember, mostly sideways since. Here's the dip lower, V bottom that's come into play. Let's just take a look at some of these areas of consolidation where the market's been pausing and kind of regaining composure because value's been forming higher, right? So again, this move lower, not necessarily what the bulls wanted to see, but still holding up above 150. Take a look here, longer term chart, adding a bit of time on. You can see 3 really well-defined areas of consolidation. And again, that pullback, that move lower last week to 161, never got below that key area, 150, the middle of the last area balance that we formed. So probably what we're going to end up doing is bringing this 240 down a little bit, maybe to the 220, 215, 220 area, the middle of this range as we start to fill in some of this area above these highs where we are above this 200 level if this bid continues. But I wanted to show you, Charles referenced that 200. We're finding support on that. It's the yellow line here. Still got to get back above the 50-day moving average. That's a reflection of some of that wicked sell-off that we saw, that weakness that came into play. But yeah, this is a stock right now, Coin, build momentum through the middle of this range, get above the 50-day moving average. I think we could retest 283.
All right, can we? Well, let's see. And talk more to Charles. Final thoughts.
Yeah, Bitcoin struggling to sustain above 60, that's going to be a pretty big catalyst. If they could actually find acceptance above that level and turn higher and this market continues to rebound, there's no reason as to why Coin can't participate. And, just as fast as it comes down, we've seen how fast it could rise up as well. So for me, again, these important thresholds, it's really important that 161 level, if they would have lost it, they would have been down by the 140s, 135s to fill that big gap. But instead, we've rebounded back and we've been able to sustain. So, the fact that Bitcoin has rolled, but Coin has remained above the 200-day moving average really gives me a lot of guidance that the market participants are trying to rise this stock up. And we could see that really fast top to that 215, 225. And I'm with Ben, above that 50-day moving average, they should easily rise back up to 272 to 283.
Yeah, I'm looking next at the AMD chart, which the high was 227. Similar chart, it had a high not that long ago, but has been moving lower, but trying to give it a go right now. Not a great chart off the highs, but let's hear what you have to say here. 147 today.
Yeah, what's really been standing out with AMD to me is the strength that's been exhibited to a degree since their earnings report. Very positive result. It rejected at the 200-day and spiked down when the market started unraveling, but it's made a very sharp V reversal. It's recovered here. It's really working that trajectory back. Now, the question is, can they ascend beyond that key threshold of the 200-day moving average and 50-day simple moving average? There's been a lot of weakness in the stock that's been exhibited since it got below that level. Now that buyers are trying to bring this back up, along with the other semiconductor names, they've really stood out here a bit as being a stronger performer, holding up better when the other participants have rolled back. So this is where I see them running to that 155 for that retest. And then again, if they could accelerate through that 155, 160 zone, it wouldn't surprise me that they really get up towards that 178, 180 price range to fill that gap and perhaps start to recover. Since they made their 52-week highs, they've been really, really punished and really, really hit down. Very contrarian to a lot of the semiconductor names, but this is one that I still believe holds great value and really great opportunity both in the near and long term.
So maybe it doesn't deserve to be down 5% over the last month or so. Let's see what Ben says about the chart.
Couldn't agree more, Nicole. And Charles' levels, they're spot on. Let's take a look at the charts. First and foremost, a 30-minute candle and how we are reversing a bit of a downtrend that we had seen off the July highs. That was up around 187. If you remember, we always talk about these areas of value helping us determine trend, because here you can see value is forming at lower and lower levels, 183, 63, 153, 143, and while we were balancing around 130, the bears didn't want us to get above 143 because that's a bit of a reversal. They wanted us to take out that 120 low and form a new area of value at a lower level to solidify the working assumption that we were still trending lower. In fact, look at that. That working assumption's been invalidated at this point because we've now started to take out key areas that were determined on the way down. So, yeah, I'd have to agree. Next big hurdle, Charles, I think, was talking about the mid 150 level. There's that next big area. And then I think get above that, and you're looking at 170 ultimately. I always say through the middle of balance area after failed lower extreme tests in a trend environment to the upside, you build momentum, you get participation, you get energy. Take out those highs that we saw back in the beginning of July. Ultimately, we could retest that 227, 228 area. A very textbook example of a trend up here. Again, not what the bulls wanted to see, but holding above key support around 115. Let's show you where we are, because Charles mentioned that 200, that 50. Get above them, I would agree. That would probably add to some of the momentum. That coincides right around that 160-ish area. And again, this chart, a pretty good example of a V-bottom type pattern. I always say they're not, it's not a common event, right, to see this kind of volatility that we've seen over the last couple of days, but and consequently, V-bottoms aren't either. So this chart, again, seeing some recent price decay, but not necessarily taking out key levels that were established on this longer-term trend up.
Okay. Yeah, because 6 months, it's down 16%. Let's get to the next one. Alibaba, Charles?
So Baba, along with a lot of the Chinese stocks, haven't really participated in the broad market rally at all this year. And obviously that's tied directly to China, but there's been a spark in these Chinese stocks over the last few days, especially since Baba has really lifted up yesterday on earnings. They are in this kind of short-term breakout threshold now. If they could continue to push, this is where I could see them really making this run up towards $88, $90 here in the near term. They have found a lot of acceptance above key technical levels, and most notably the overall response from earnings, where it was initially down, but intraday wise, it was bought up very aggressively. And we're seeing that momentum spilling into today, could lead to this really nice risk on rally. This market right now is really living almost on a day-by-day basis. Everything has been short term, but because of the volatility, there's been really big expansion on normal trading ranges. So for me, it won't take long for Baba to race up to this 90, and with this upside momentum, especially coming off earnings, I really see this potential here if the market continues to stack on these recent gains for this to make this run towards that 90 here in the near term.
All right, look, You know, what a boring sort of stock. I mean, it's good because it's higher over 1 year, year to date, 6 months, 1 month. But all of those moves are 3%, 1%.
Right.
So certainly not seeing a lot of volatility, right? But let's see what Ben says about the technicals.
Yeah, it has been a bit of a lackluster trade. It's been a bit of a mess as well, as Charles mentioned. This one trying to establish a little bit of a bottom here, and I would agree in terms of the 90, 93 area. I think I have highlighted as the big level to get above. But let's just start off with the daily candle chart, BABA, going all the way back to, we're talking July of 2022. You can see range bound, lower lows, lower highs, just this kind of triangle pattern forming, but no real staircase type pattern like what I like to look for, trend, value, migration thereof. I mean, this thing has been sideways recently, coming off some lows we saw around 70, back up into this $85 level. So let's take a step back. When in doubt, zoom out, I always say. Here you can see a trend lower, but I would agree with Charles. While even within this trend to the downside, we could still see some momentum higher here as we have established a bit of a bottom, it looks like. Get up above 90. We could target this 120, 130 level and still remain within this longer-term trend to the downside. So there's some kind of wiggle room, as I like to say, even within this balance, this area that's been forming. I'm going all the way back to, we're talking the fall of 2021 here. We gapped down, if you remember, through that 150 level. And we really haven't looked back. Series of lower highs, but we haven't really taken out the bottom and seen further follow through. Most of the conviction on the left side of this chart, and you can see the sideways consolidation, just acceptance thereof. Wanted to show you, Charles mentioned this instance, the 50, the 200-day moving average, we're bouncing off of those. So again, further providing a bit of lift within this bigger range that's been established here. 93, 92-ish, it looks like, those highs that we have from back in May. So that's the next big hurdle. But yeah, building a little bit of momentum here and definitely trying to establish a little bit of a bottom in this longer-term downtrend that's still in place.
All right. Thank you both. I'm going to leave it there. Charles Moon, Prosper Trading Academy. Ben Lichtenstein, thank you both for the big three today. Coinbase, AMD, and Alibaba.